This is Harsha Galkanda from Outreach Center of the Faculty of Livestock, Fisheries and Nutrition. And I would like to welcome you all for the Outreach FLFN seminar series organized by the Outreach Center of the Faculty of Livestock, Fisheries and Nutrition. So the title today is the Extension and Outreach for Aquaculture. And I will start things with briefly introducing me and my engagement to the Outreach Center. So as I mentioned, I am Harsha Galkanda, officer in charge of the Outreach Center, and also I'm working as the senior lecturer of the Department of Aquaculture and Fisheries. If I start briefing something about Outreach Center, we have established in 2009 to provide the technology and services to both industry and community, along with teaching and training. And this is all collaboration with the departments, units, and student association in the faculty. And we are mainly working in livestock and avian sciences, aquaculture and fisheries, food science and technology, and applied nutrition. So there are a lot of activities happening around with the engagement of the departments and all the eminent, well-trained academic, non-academic staff, as well as students. So in case if anyone need to go through and check further information, there are a lot of information available in our website for Outreach Center, the 4 departments, as well as the faculty as whole. So you can access through FLFN.wyb.ac.lk. So rather getting delays, I would like to invite our Dean of the Faculty, Senior Professor C.V.L. Jayasinghe, to share a few words with us at the start, because she's one of the inspirational figures for the Outreach Center, for the activities we are doing during last few months. So without her commitment and encouragement, we were not able to come to this far. So I would like to hear a few words at the start from the Dean, Senior Professor Jayasinghe, on this occasion.
Thank you very much, Dr. Harsha Galkanda, for your nice introduction of me. And good morning to Dr. Luke Roy from Extension Research, Extension Associate Professor of the Auburn University. And also good evening to my all colleagues and the students of the FLFN and the people who are joining from the outside, farmers, to this seminar series. So the today's seminar. And so actually now Outreach Center is established in a few years' time, but we were unable to do much activities through the Outreach Center, unfortunately. But however, so I was waiting until that Dr. Harsha Galkanda will be returned back to the country and to the university to hand over this Outreach Center to Outreach Center in charge position to him. So luckily he came back, and I'm really happy about that. And now he has started his work, and so the faculty also happy about what he has going to do with that Outreach Center, using the Outreach Center. So the especially that our faculty has 4 departments: aquaculture and fisheries, livestock and avian sciences, food science and technology, and as well as the applied nutrition. So the most applied nutrition department, especially they are working with the community, but other 4 departments, especially aquaculture and fisheries, also do some work with the farmers. But especially in the case of transferring our knowledge or our research outcomes to the society is very limited. So therefore, now this seminar series has started by Dr. Harsha Galkanda, OutreachFLFN-eConnection seminar. So today that so the Dr. Luke Roy, he is going to express us his views and his experience, and he want to share that how we can do that, how we can share our expertise or share our research outcomes to the farmers of the aquaculture and fisheries sector. On the other hand, that importantly, sometimes that the farmers or the aquaculture sector, and they are having some problem, and they also need our support to solve their problem. So in that case also, how we can identify their problem and how we can apply, how we can conduct the conduct the research, and then how we can deliver the same outcome to them will be expressed by Dr. Roy. And thank you very much, Dr. Luke Roy, for joining with us. And it's a really, we are really impressive about the knowledge and the work you have done. And always Dr. Harsha explained me that how you are working in your research team. And so I would like to hear, and I will like to connect with you through this e-platform, and aware that how you have done this extension work in your university. And so one day we hope to see you physically in our university and connect with us to do some research. And thank you very much, Dr. Harsha. And I'm not going to talk much because we want to hear very eagerly. We are waiting to hear Dr. Luke's voice. So over to you, Dr. Luke.
Thank you. I appreciate those words.
Thank you.
Yeah, at the start, a few housekeeping rules. So let's stay muted unless Dr. Luke wanted to hear the voice of the audience. And there is later the Q&A session at the end. The audience, the participants can raise any questions at the end for discussion. In the same time, they can comment any questions. So I will try to take some of the questions and take to the discussion with Dr. Luke. In the same time, this webinar will be recorded and available later in the OutreachFLFN website if someone need to go through it again. And then rather getting delays, I will move towards the speaker today. So our guest speaker is, as mentioned, Dr. Luke Roy. He's working as Associate Extension Professor attached to the School of Fisheries, Aquaculture and Aquatic Sciences, Auburn University, as well as he is the Assistant Director of the Alabama Fish Farming Center Operations. So Dr. Roy is originally from Michigan, but he grew up in Uruguay, South America. So I know he's very fluent in Spanish because of that. So which is again a very strong communication tool for him when he's communicating with the farmers from South America, people who speak a lot of Spanish rather than English. Dr. Luke has a bachelor's in environmental science and GIS from Samford University, Birmingham, Alabama. And his master's is on soil and water science from University of California. And his PhD is from Auburn University, USA in fisheries and aquaculture. So I know Dr. Luke Roy is working with the farmers in Alabama, and he has more than 20 years of experience working with the industry. Because of that, Dr. Luke's research is mainly driven by the needs of the industry and the stakeholders and their concerns. So he has a laboratory in Alabama Fish Farming Center, and I know he has a lot of collaboration with farmers, and he supports both logistical and field work for the graduate students, scientists, and the faculty to do the applied research with the farmers there. So he's kind of a bridge between the university and the industry and the farmers. So he's kind of transferring information back and forth. So why not? He's one of the best speakers to share the ideas, knowledge, and experience on this topic. So it's a great honor to have you here, Dr. Luke, with us today to share your experience. And rather taking any more delays, I will transfer things towards you to share your voice and your experience with us. Thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen here. Is it okay to share my screen now? Okay. Okay, can you guys see my slideshow now?
Not yet, Dr. Luke.
Let's see. How about now?
Yes, now it's work.
Okay. All right, thank you, Dr. Galkanda, for the introduction. Some of you might not be aware, but I've worked with Dr. Galkanda quite extensively the last couple of years when he was here in the United States. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about extension and the world outside of the university. And, you know, in particular, extension and outreach for aquaculture and fisheries, which is kind of what my expertise is in. So I want to start the presentation now. Okay. You already have a little bit of my background as far as you know, where I'm from and my education. Originally, I'm from Michigan in the United States. Was in the north part of the United States, close to Canada. But I lived overseas in Uruguay until I was almost 19 years old, and I lived in the north of the country on the border with Brazil. So I speak Spanish fluently, as Dr. Galcanda said, and I also speak Portuguese pretty well. Not as good as Spanish, but because I grew up down there, I'm a big soccer or football fan of the national team. So I'm excited about the upcoming World Cup. I've had a couple of academic positions. Since 2017, I've been here at Auburn University as an associate extension professor. Prior to that, I was an extension aquaculture specialist at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. And prior to that, I served nearly 7 years as a research fellow with Auburn University, stationed at the facility that I'm stationed at currently here at the Alabama Fish Farming Center, which I'll talk to you guys a little bit about. In my previous position in Arkansas, I like to mention this because this was very key in my development as a professional, a scientist in extension. Because although I had a PhD when I went to University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, this was my first actual extension position officially with the university. And there I was stationed off campus, also about 80 kilometers from the university, at an off-campus laboratory that was where in the region of the state of Arkansas where most of the fish farming takes place. And I provided extension support to commercial bait fish and sport fish producers in Arkansas, and also to catfish producers throughout the state. And this position for me was key because I ran into or worked with three of who I consider the top professionals in extension in the United States in aquaculture: Dr. Anita Kelly, Dr. Nathan Stone, and Dr. Carol Engel. Nathan Stone and Carol Engel are now retired from the university, and Dr. Kelly's actually here at Auburn University where I'm at now. But they took a lot of time with me personally to mentor me and how to do extension and outreach for farmers. I had some experience doing outreach prior to the position, but it was very important for my development as a professional to work under them. And I actually went to that university specifically to work with those individuals because I was interested in extension, and they had the reputation of being the best extension aquaculture program in the United States at the time. So I went there to get more experience in the field. Currently, I'm an associate extension professor, and I have here in the state of Alabama is in the southeast part of the United States, and Alabama is it's probably a medium-sized state for the United States. My facility is 240 kilometers from the university. And my facility is called the Alabama Fish Farming Center. Our primary stakeholder group is the catfish industry, but we also have farmers that do shrimp, do crawfish, and do a number of other species, including tilapia and bass. And the position that I have is 50% extension and 50% research. So I'll explain to you a little bit about what these appointments are when I explain here the next couple slides what the U.S. land grant system is. So The United States has a system of colleges and universities that received land and funding from the U.S. government in 1862, 1890, and 1994. There were different designations. In 1890, those were African American universities that were granted land grant status. And in 1862, that was when the university that I'm with was granted status. And so the purpose of these universities being funded by the federal government was to teach practical agriculture, science, engineering, and military science to citizens of the United States. So there's typically in each state 1 to 2 land grant universities. In Alabama, there's 2. And we're tasked with providing farmers with support, to U.S. agriculture industries, and that includes aquaculture. So this is just a state map of the United States that shows where the location of the different land grants are in each state. As you can see, Auburn University is on the east side of Alabama, and our facilities on the west side. And we have 3 universities in Alabama, Alabama A&M, Auburn, and Tuskegee University that are designated land grants. And so these universities are different from other state institutions and other private institutions in that we are charged with providing help to the citizens of our state where we represent. So what's the mission of the land grant university? And it's three things, research, education, and extension. So research provides answers to complex issues facing our nation and our world. Education strengthens schools and universities by training, new students and the next generation of educators and scientists and citizens for that state. And those 2 things are kind of what's most commonly associated with the university, the teaching and the research. When you think of a university, most people think of those 2 things. They don't necessarily think about extension, and not every university in the United States does extension. But if we're at a land grant, we do. So we take knowledge that's gained through research and education to the people who need it most. And that's just kind of in a nutshell what the land grant university is. So if you think about it from the context of producers or farmers, they're gaining benefits from these 3 different areas. And it's important, if you don't have, you can have new discoveries at universities, and you can have, through research, and you can have knowledge through universities, through teaching. But if you don't have a way to get that knowledge to the farmer, they're not going to benefit from that, that increase in knowledge or that new technology that might be developed at a university, those new ideas. So extension is, as Dr. Galkanda said, kind of like the bridge to get to farmers. Just to give you a brief overview of our university, the School of Fisheries, Aquaculture, and Aquatic Science says that Auburn it's internationally recognized as a premier warm water fisheries and aquaculture academic program. We're one of the top aquaculture programs in the United States. We have a lot of research and teaching and extension programs that have kind of set the stage and trained a next several generations actually of leaders in our field from all over the world. We have a lot of international students. We actually have probably more international students than than students from the United States in our graduate program. We have 25 full-time faculty with 55 staff members, and we have over 100 undergraduate and graduate students in our program currently. And so of those 25 faculty that we have, 8 of those faculty have extension professorial appointments like me. So my main goal isn't to teach class. I actually don't typically teach a lot of classes. I can teach remotely, but my job is to do extension and outreach, and then also research. So in addition to our facility on campus, which is a very large facility, we have 730 hectares with over 300 ponds. We also have a number of satellite laboratories, which include the Alabama Fish Farming Center, where I'm from, where I work, the Auburn University Shellfish Laboratory, and the Claude Petit Mariculture Center. Those are two facilities that we have on the coast, on the Gulf of Mexico. And we also have a third facility close to the coast, which is called the Marine Extension and Research Center, that provides direct support to coastal aquaculture. So what a lot of land grant universities do is they'll have a main university, but then they'll also have satellite laboratories and facilities in other areas of the state to be able to have personnel and students and staff there to assist producers and assist citizens with issues that they're having, because the university is just in one location, and if you don't take the university to different locations with these satellite labs and facilities, it's much more difficult. So the facility that I manage is the Alabama Fish Farming Center. As I mentioned, we're far from the university, actually, almost 250 kilometers. But we're actually located in the part of the area of Alabama that has all the farms. 95% of the farms in Alabama are located in close proximity to our facility, very far from the university. So the university strategy has been to develop this facility close to the farmers and to provide them support. And we're a relatively small team, but we were able to get a lot done. So what is our mission? Well, our mission is to provide technical and educational support to the Alabama aquaculture industry. And we also provide expertise in water quality management, disease management, pond management, economic analysis for producers, and overall farm management. We try to serve kind of as that bridge or that conduit for communication between the fish farming industry and the university, in particular the research community, and then also state and federal agencies that work with aquaculture to help develop the industry. So we're kind of in the middle of the producers in the university to try to help transfer technology and research to the farms. So we conduct applied and relevant research to solve emerging and long-term problems that are faced by the fish farming industry in the southeastern U.S. And when I say relevant, I say that because there's a lot of research that takes place at universities that's really not valuable to the industry. And I see this in aquaculture all the time. Reviewing papers for journals. I see it in presentations at meetings where we have researchers that are doing research and they're publishing it, but it has no value to the producer. There's no, the only thing being gained is a publication. We have to make sure that we're doing work that is valuable for our industry. And that sometimes is a challenge because in order to get, sometimes it's difficult to get funds and money to be able to do work that's relevant to the producers, because our granting agencies a lot of times just want to do science for the sake of science. And so we try to serve kind of as a liaison between faculty that are on campus, fish farmers, U.S. Department of Agriculture labs, and state game and fish agencies to kind of foster collaboration and partnerships towards solving, industry problems. This middle picture is our mobile disease lab that we have, and it actually is another way that we can, our aquatic animal health specialist that's located here, we can actually travel to farms. I'll talk a little bit about that later, to provide diagnostic services to these producers if they can't get to our facility. The current staff at this facility is just we just have 2 faculty members. I'm one of them. And then my colleague, Dr. Kelly, she does aquatic health and diagnostics. Right now, we have 2 graduate students that are located here. Typically, we have anywhere from 2 to 4 students at any one time. We also have a postdoctoral fellow that's stationed here. We have an accountant, and we have 2 technicians. And so we're a small team. Typically, there's about 10 of us here at this location, but we were able to get a lot done. And one thing that is kind of a mark of our facility is we do a lot of visits to farms. And just I have down here in 2020, because I haven't counted our farm visits for 2021, but in 2020 we had over 600 commercial farm visits to provide either technical assistance or to help carry out research on commercial farms. And so we have our reach is very substantial. This seminar, I'm going to divide it into 2 kind of sections. I'm going to talk about extension, and then I'm going to talk about applied on-farm research activities that we're carrying out here in Alabama. So, I'm talking a lot about extension. What does that actually involve? Well, as I mentioned, cooperative extension serves as that bridge between a land-grant university, which in this case is Auburn, and the residents of that state, in this case, Alabama, by translating research into education and practice, on the farms. And so we're tasked with building programs that bring the research discoveries at land-grant universities to, the individuals, to the community, and the producers who can put this knowledge into practice in their lives. And one common misconception that I see is a lot of times, at least in the United States, outreach and extension are not the same thing. Outreach can kind of be part of an extension program, but extension typically is a larger entity, it's a larger program, and then you can have research can be a part of an extension program, teaching can be a part of the program, outreach can be a part of the program. But it's not necessarily an interchangeable term. We also support other Alabama cooperative extension team members that are located throughout the state. We provide technical assistance to producers, and we also work with faculty on campus as well. So I like showing this graphic here because we have on the left side of the screen the research that's being carried out at the university. We come up with new ideas, and you have an extension individual like myself that's charged with taking the new technology to the farmer, testing it with the farmer. Sometimes the farmer accepts the technology, and sometimes they don't. So sometimes the discoveries at the university, it might work in the lab, but it might not work in the field on a farm. For instance, a new feed, developed by a nutritionist at the university in a laboratory tank trial, it might show a lot of promise, but when you take it to the farm, it may or may not be beneficial to the producer in the real world. So our job is to test it and to be able to make research-based recommendations to industry stakeholders in Alabama, the southeastern U.S., and also the entire country. So I just kind of wanted to give you an idea about how extension works in Alabama. So extension, Alabama is divided into 67 counties. I guess I'm not sure if you guys have anything like that in your country, but they're kind of like provinces, I guess. That's another term that's used in the international circle instead of county. So each of these counties or provinces has an extension office, and in that office they have a county extension coordinator in each of these 67 counties. So Alabama has 67 county extension coordinators. They typically have master's degrees, and they coordinate extension activities in that county. And then within that county office, there's an average of 4 to 5 what we call regional extension agents. And those also typically have a master's degree. And they cover larger areas. They can cover up to 10 counties or more that they're responsible for. So those agents travel a lot to different locations. And they have specialties in such things such as agronomic crops, wildlife forestry, animal sciences, horticulture, food safety, human nutrition, education, and probably 5 or 6 other areas. We actually do have a couple of regional extension agents in fisheries, but because we have such a heavy presence of fisheries in the state, we don't have, like at facilities like mine, we don't have that many of them compared to other states. And then typically you have a support staff. So other counties in other states, or extension in other states follows a similar model to that of Alabama. So this is how the land grant university reaches the rest of the state, by taking people that are paid by the university, but they don't work at the university. They work in these different provinces and counties. And that I just want to put that out there just so to kind of explain to you how we do it here. So when we support county extension offices, we get calls a lot of times. Hey, can you come to our school and talk about fish? Hey, can you come to this agricultural expo and talk, talk about aquaculture? Or sometimes we have fish festivals. We have field days at local farms. And so we send our staff goes to provide help to these different counties, on fisheries related content. And we also do other things, like we looked at, in the United States, recreational fishing is a big deal. So we help recreational pond owners. They don't really grow the fish for food. They have fish in ponds to recreationally angle. And then we also analyze water samples, weed samples. We look at seafood safety and things like that. And so we try to take expertise to different areas of the state. So this is, as an extension person in the United States, as a faculty member, I'm required to track, my activities. So I have to do, each year a report showing, what have I done, to provide extension activities? What have I done to help other individuals? So one of the things, this is one of the things that not all the extension people like to do. Actually, I don't like to record all this information here as well. But like, for instance, just look at 2019, I had 102 farm visits where I actually myself went to a commercial farm to provide technical assistance or to work on a research demonstration trial. I helped, I identified, 26 aquatic nuisance weeds for different landowners or producers, ran samples in the lab, looking at, water quality on farms. I visited, in this case, 1 feed mill to provide assistance, and then 13 processing plants to provide assistance. And these contacts are how we measure. Like, if I go to a farm and I meet with 2 people or 3 people, that's 3 contacts for the day. So I have to count all these things to report to my superiors, what have I done? Because, in research, you can measure your output through publications or presentations. And teaching, you're measured by, your student evaluations, by the number of students that are in classes that you teach, how well you do at teaching. Well, I'm also evaluated in extension, and I'm held accountable. If I am not, helping people, if I'm not going to farms and providing that, I will be held accountable in my job. So that's just part of what I have to do as an extension professor. So I'm going to talk about 2 of my extension programs. The first is Catfish Aquaculture, which is our biggest stakeholder group in Alabama. And I'll give you a brief history of the U.S. aquaculture industry. It peaked in 2003, so almost 20 years ago, with 295 million kilograms of fish harvested on 76,000 water acres. And however, in the last 10 years, you know, starting in 2003, it started to kind of go down, our production. It went down for about 10 years. In the last 10 years, we've kind of been, you know, trying to stabilize that and recover. But we've never reached the peak that we had in 2003. You know, we're, you know, pretty much stable between 135 and 150 million kilograms of fish harvested on about 20,000 hectares. So we lost a lot of farmers, in particular, compared to about 20 years ago. We've had a lot of competition from imports, other fish species that are being sold cheaper. They're imported typically from China, Thailand, Vietnam, places like that, and they've taken a lot of the market share that we used to have. So our producers, you know, to survive, have to be much more efficient. We still do have the U.S. catfish industry still does have a $2 billion impact in the Southeast at this point. So it's still a relatively big industry. But as you can see, in 2003, we peaked and it went down to about 2010, 2011, and we've kind of stabilized since then, which is good. But you see the demand, this graph here, the demand for products has continued to go up, but we have just not, you know, been producing. You know, that demand is mostly being met by imports, unfortunately, because they're cheaper. That's a problem that we have in the U.S. In Alabama, we have 67 commercial catfish farms. We have 1,500 ponds on 6,700 water hectares. So we produce 33% of the catfish in the United States. We also have 2 commercial feed mills, 2 fish processing plants, and our industry employs about 2,500 people. And our economic impact is about $500 million, so about $500 million in the state of Alabama. So it's still a big industry. In this top picture, you can see a feed truck. That's how we feed some of our ponds. Are typically pretty big. You know, sometimes, you know, an average pond might be 4 hectares. So we use a truck that blows feed out into the pond to feed these fish. I'm going to talk a little bit about, you know, what we've done kind of at the national level in this extension program. You know, as far as some of the major issues that we've had to deal with, and one of them was in 2016, the inspection of catfish in the United States went from the Food and Drug Administration to USDA, Food Safety Inspection Service, which was much more stringent. And you know, they placed an inspector in every processing plant in the United States. And we began to have some violations for some products that were not allowed in catfish fillets. We were detecting a lot of imports coming in with violations, but we also started to detect some violations in U.S. product. One was a crystal violet dye, 2016, and one was malachite green in 2017. So when that happened, the Catfish Farmers of America asked Extension in Alabama, Mississippi, and Arkansas to form a committee to help educate and develop a certificate-based national training program for farmers, processors, fish haulers, and other members of the catfish industry. So we had a team together. Most of the actual work was done by myself and Dr. Jimmy Avery at Mississippi State. And in a short period of time, we developed a training program and then went to the different states and delivered the program to over 94% of the U.S. catfish industry, actually 98% of the farmers in Alabama. And the catfish processors basically said, if you don't get this training, we're not going to buy your product. So the farmers were kind of forced to do this training program. And so it was an opportunity for us to, as an industry, provide training in residues, to ways to avoid residues in catfish. And so we did this, at different locations. The two and at the bottom that I marked were the trainings that I did. It was done at the national level to try to reach as much as we could. So we had, over 203 producers in the United States trained with a total of 53,000 acres of water, or 21,600 hectares, and 94% of the industry. So that was something that we did as an extension program to help the industry with the problems they were having. A second issue that we have was looking at fish-eating birds on farms, which are a huge problem in the United States. We obtained some funding through the U.S. Department of Agriculture to look at the economic impact of double-crested cormorants, which is the bird on the left side that has the catfish in its mouth. That bird's the biggest problem that we have. You see on the right side, we can get thousands of birds on a pond, and they eat a lot of fish, and a lot of these birds are protected. And so farmers aren't able to protect their crop because they're not able to take these birds lethally. We can use scare tactics, but really the best way is lethal take, where you actually shoot the bird and remove the problem. And with the cormorants, there used to be an order from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service that allowed farmers to use lethal means to control these birds, but that was discontinued. So a lot of farms were going out of business because all these birds were eating all their fish. So that was a problem that we were faced with. So we did a number of studies where we interviewed farmers to report the number of the dollar amount per acre. I don't have this. I'm sorry, I don't have this converted to hectares. But we determined the dollar amount that the birds were causing in damage, and then scaled that up to the industry and determined that predation can range anywhere from $25 to $65 million a year, and have a lot of negative impacts. And we actually were able to kind of track where farmers were spending money scaring birds from their farms, and document that. And if you look at multiplier effects, it could end up being all the way up to $85 million costing the industry. And so that's a huge deal. And so this study, from a research perspective, we were able to publish 6 journal articles from this work. But those journal articles, journal articles are always great. But what was great about these were we took these journal articles to our government and said, our government agencies, and we have an entity called the National Aquaculture Association, NAA, and they lobby in Washington, D.C., in the capital of the United States, for change to benefit our producers. And they used our data in order to allow the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to once again issue permits for these birds that were damaging farms, so farmers could use lethal take to protect their crops. So also, we had a number of other species that were listed through this project that are now included on depredation permits that weren't allowed before. So through this work, through the research and extension program, we were able to help the industry. This is this is another slide that kind of shows some of the activities that we do. When we do big projects like this, a lot of times we'll do workshops, we'll do meetings, we'll organize meetings and present the data to producers and associations. And so this is also within the extension programs, things that I have to track and report every year. As far as, I did these extension programs, but how did I share the information? How did I take the information to the stakeholders? The second program I wanted to talk to you about is the Inland Low Salinity Aquaculture Program. Dr. Galkanda actually worked on this program when he was completing his PhD at Auburn University, and actually did some outstanding work to help our producers in the United States. We have a number of farmers that grow shrimp in Alabama, and they're far from the coast, but they have access to low salinity water. And so shrimp is something that's important to Alabama aquaculture. So I have a program that looks at inland low salinity aquaculture, and I look at other species besides shrimp, but shrimp is the one where we have the most farmer support. And so we do a lot of on-farm demonstrations in this particular program, and an on-farm demonstration, extension demonstration, is when you take basically technology that's developed at the university to a farm, or you use facilities, you develop facilities on a farm to be able to test things that the farmer can kind of see. And so in order to carry out on-farm demonstrations, and Dr. Galkanda, actually, one of the chapters of his dissertation was an on-farm demonstration with shrimp. You have to have the right farmer collaborator. And typically I try to find farmers that I can kind of trust, that will collect data, that are responsible, share data, and will work well with students. You have to find the funds to be able to do the work, and that can get difficult sometimes. But the good thing in the United States, a lot of the research grants that we get, typically, from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, they require an extension component. So I can get a research grant that actually has an extension component to help fund some of this. And you have to kind of make it a priority of your program, and make sure that you do it the right way. Make sure you're working with a producer in a way to solve the problems. And you have to have close collaboration with research faculty. In my case, they're far away on campus, as well as industry. And then in order to carry these out, you have to be flexible, adaptable, and resourceful, because you're working on someone else's farm. And so you're a guest on their farm. And so you have to realize that their farm takes priority over your demonstration or research. You need to follow up with the producers. And finally, you have to do presentation and publication of your demonstration results. So on-farm research activities, in my lab, I focus on aquaculture production. I'm an aquaculture production specialist, and I look at alternative culture production systems, culture techniques, and alternative species. And I also look at commercial application and testing of alternative feed ingredients and feed management strategies. And this research program is based out of the Alabama Fish Farming Center, but we have pretty limited facilities for carrying out research at the Fish Farming Center. So most of my work is done on commercial farms. And the research program is always evolving depending on what the industry needs and concerns are. I'm going to go through these slides pretty quickly. In order to support our research program, myself and the other faculty member, Dr. Kelly here, we write grants and bring in money that pays for the research, the extension, and also pays the salaries of graduate students and other folks that are in our lab. And so we have a number of different grants from different state agencies right now that are covering. We actually, just in the last 6 years, we've actually been able to get about $8 million, which is very good for us. Typically, we don't get that much money, but for whatever reason, we've had a number of projects come up lately that have been funded. There's been a lot of interest in what we do because we do it on the farm. We don't actually just do it in the lab at the university. And so the grant agencies have been very generous with us in as far as giving us funding to carry out work. A lot of what I do involves other collaborators at other institutions. I have this slide here just to kind of show you that my facility, it's not always just me. I collaborate with other individuals that are located often at other institutions. And a lot of the grants that we do are multi-state grants or multi-institutional grants where we have collaborators from several states joining together to help solve problems for the aquaculture industry. Part of my program also involves mentoring graduate students. They're very important to what I try to do out here. And you know, one thing that our facility is known for is actually mentoring you know, students in extension and outreach. And that's something that the university you know, isn't necessarily great at on campus. A lot of the students that just work on campus, they don't leave the university. You know, so a lot of students have never met a farmer before. They've never been on a farm. They're doing work in a laboratory, which, you know, is valuable work, but they don't have experience actually helping producers with their problems. So, you know, having that opportunity to mentor graduate students off campus on farms is something that's kind of one of the marks of our program here at the Alabama Fish Farming Center and our other satellite locations as well with Auburn. Typically, I have a couple students that I'm serving as major professor, and then I have, you know, I'm typically, you know, at any given time, I'll have 10 to 15 graduate student committees that I'll be on simultaneously in addition to my own students. So mentoring students is a big time commitment, but it also is our kind of responsibility to make sure that, you know, when I'm gone, that there are trained individuals that are trained in extension, not just research. And so I take it on myself personally to try to invest time in students, in particular those that have the interest to help producers. Not everybody does. You know, not everybody is meant to be in extension and outreach. I think you know, actually Dr. Galkanda, he's a natural at extension. He's kind of, you know, one of those that's you didn't really have to train. He already had it inside. You know, sometimes you're just born with that ability to interact with other people and other producers and explain complex ideas to those, you know, take complex ideas from the university in the lab and explain it in a way that a farmer can understand. Not everybody can do that. And so we spend a lot of time trying to mentor students. And one example that I want to give you from this program, just briefly, is the Alabama Low-Salinity Aquaculture Program. You know, we have farmers with water from 1 to 11 parts per thousand or grams per liter. Groundwater, it's not suitable for traditional aquaculture, but since 1998, there's been a small group of producers that have been raising the Pacific white shrimp, Lithopenaeus vietnami. And we don't produce a whole lot. It's mostly for niche markets. We produce about 115,000 kilograms of shrimp per year. You know, when we started this industry in Alabama, all the farmers were on the other side of the state, far from the university, but they asked us to help them with mortality issues that they were having. In particular, when they started, they were getting less than 30% survival, even though the ones that survived actually were growing pretty well. So you see the first couple of years, the production in kilograms per hectare was pretty low, and the survival, you know, was pretty low as well. You know, anywhere from about 15 to 26% survival is what they were seeing the first couple of years. So initially, what the university did was they took water from farms in West Alabama, you know, in this location, and they transported water in trucks 250 kilometers away to the university, and they put them in these tanks, and they were running studies. And that's actually what I did my dissertation on when I about 20 years ago when I was at Auburn. I was the one that was kind of doing some of this work, but it wasn't practical because we were far from the farm. We were taking water. We always needed to go get more water. It was expensive. You know, if we had to do a water exchange or something like that, we'd run out of water. When we used artificial seawater, sometimes to mimic the water in West Alabama, but it wasn't really working well. So what we decided to do was let's take tanks to the farm and let's do things on the farm. So instead of taking water to the university, we started building tank systems on farms. So this is a commercial farm, and so we could actually test and run experiments on the farm. doing kind of research demonstrations. So, and they're excellent in terms of transferring information to producers, because farmers can see it firsthand and they can experience it. And so when you test a new diet, for instance, in these tanks, and they see how well it works, you know, before they test it on their farms, it gives them confidence to then take that next step and test it on a larger scale. And so, you know, these can also be a viable platform to do research. You can actually, if you have enough tanks on farms, you can have replication, you can do statistics. You can actually do science on the farm. That's a very important part of what I do, and what my graduate students actually do is carry out these demonstrations on farms. This was one of the larger demonstration facilities that we had. It was actually 54 tanks that was destroyed in over 10 years ago by a tornado. Actually, those tanks, when the tornado came, they were full of water. They didn't have any fish or shrimp in them, but they were transported about 2 kilometers away from and dropped by the tornado that hit this farm. The tornado actually picked up tractors from one side of the farm and lit the tractors in the air and threw them in ponds on the other side of the farm. So it was a really strong tornado. This is a new system that was built in 2017 through funding through U.S. Department of Agriculture. Dr. Galkanda actually used this system in a demonstration that he did on this particular commercial farm when he was a graduate student. You know, and he came out and traveled out here and set up the experiment, and we got some pretty good data. This is another system that was built on the farm. So basically what happens is we have a pump that can bring water from the farm, from the pond. This is a commercial shrimp farm, and it pumps water through the tanks, and then it recirculates back into the pond. So, you know, the only thing that we need is a power source to run the pump and the blower, and we pay the farmer for the electricity that we use in this system. This is a larger system that we built in 2018 using another funding source through U.S. Department of Agriculture. These tanks right here are about 800 liters. These tanks are larger. They're probably close to more like 10,000 liters each. So they're a little bit larger scale. You can see, you know, but we can actually do work on because we have replication here. We don't have a lot of replication, but we have 12 tanks, so we could do, you know, 3 treatments with 4 replicates, you know, 4 treatments with 3 replicates, you know, something like that, and test different things in these particular systems. And in these smaller systems, we typically use automatic feeders. So these facilities are located, you know, this particular farm's 50 kilometers from my facility. So, yeah, and I've had students living on the farm before, but not all the time. So a lot of times we just go to the farm once a day. We check water quality. We add feed to these automatic feeders. You see this particular experiment, we're feeding 6 times a day. So there's shrimp in here. So we would actually throw feed in the morning directly into the tank, and then feed this 5 different piles that are fed over 24-hour period. And that's not a graduate student. That's actually one of my daughters. So I'm not using small kids to do my research, although she does help out a lot. These are some demonstrations that we've carried out on farms. This is just a partial list, and I'm not going to read every single one of these. You can kind of go through them if you want. But our laboratory is one of the few laboratories in the United States that publishes on-farm demonstrations almost every year. Most of the research that's carried out in the U.S. in aquaculture is carried out at universities, or university farms, or university research farms, not actually on commercial facilities. So that's kind of what sets us apart, you know, from other programs. I think it's probably you know, one of our greatest strengths is being able to do research with producers, and producers, you develop those relationships with them, and they kind of trust you over time, and a lot of them allow you to do, more and more things each year on their facility. So it's important to do the research, and with the research, if you're good at what you do, the publications will come. We publish a lot in my lab, not because we like to publish. It's just part of our job and our responsibility to share information with others. Our main focus is to help the producer, but we also, because I am responsible for a research side of my appointment, I have to publish articles. That's just part of what I do. So it's vital for university personnel to carry out on-farm research at scales that are appropriate to answer questions that are relevant to real aquaculture producers. And I can't stress this enough. I get approached a lot of times by faculty at the university with an idea, and they said, hey, can we do this idea on one of your farms? Can we do a project on your farms? And I say no a lot. And sometimes people get upset because I don't want to collaborate with them. But if their idea is not going to benefit the producer, if their idea is just going to result in a publication that's not going to be valuable to the industry, then I'm not interested. I'm not interested in publications just to publish. I'm interested in doing relevant research that's going to help the industry. And I think our program that we have here is designed to do that. And so in order for aquaculture to thrive, U.S. farmers need to use innovative techniques and increase production and improve marketing to remain competitive in the global market. So I'm interested in the research that's going to help them do that. The southeastern United States has kind of always been a stronghold for U.S. aquaculture, and it's probably going to continue that way on into the future. I think that we're kind of a leader. We have a number of good universities in the southeastern U.S., and we have a number of universities that are focused on doing on-farm research. So just kind of in conclusion, I wanted to put some concluding remarks here. The first is that making true impact in the lives of aquaculture producers as a faculty member at a university or a scientist at an institute is not easy. It's easy to do research, and sometimes it's easy even to publish papers if you have ideas that others are interested in. But it's not easy to make real impact in the lives of fish producers. To do that, you have to have a program that kind of transcends the traditional route. And so our goal shouldn't only be to teach students and carry out research that can be publishable, but we need to use the resources at our universities and our institutes, NGOs, to help solve real world problems in aquaculture and fisheries that will improve the lives of producers and make the world a better place. And I have this here, and I try to remind this to our faculty members here at Auburn too. Journal publications are important, but they should never be our main objective. And they're a necessary thing that we have to do for our jobs, but our main objective should be to help the producer. So extension approaches such as on-farm research and outreach offer a non-traditional path to solving real-world problems in aquaculture compared to traditional approaches such as laboratory work that's carried out on university facilities or field work on university research farms. So carrying out doing the work on the farm is a unique way to do it, and it's much more applicable and valuable to the producer if you can come up with ideas and ways to carry out these projects on their farm. Finally, I'd like to acknowledge the Alabama aquaculture producers that have opened up their facilities for us to do work on their farms. Also the graduate students that have come through our laboratory, and also the personnel at our facility. We have an excellent team here. We get a lot done. with very few staff members. And that's because we have great people. And then the funding sources for our research, which we wouldn't, and our research and extension, we wouldn't be able to carry out any of this work without the funds to do this. So this is my contact information and our facility website. If you want to explore a little bit more about what the Alabama Fish Farming Center does, you can kind of look at this website, and it kind of gives you an overview similar to what I've just done as far as what we do in terms of research and things like that. And there's a couple pictures of my family, my wife and my two daughters. And with that, I will take any questions that you might have and do my best to answer them. But I really appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about what we're doing here in Alabama, in the U.S. in terms of working with commercial producers on farms.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Luke, for your insightful talk. And I'm pretty sure we have learned a lot from your experiences and knowledge. It's a world of work, I know, and it's a lot of useful work for the farmers and the industry. So I will open the meeting for any questions from the participants.
Hello, Dr. Luke. I'm Callum here.
Hello.
Yes, I think this industry and the relationship between the university is very important for this kind of extension, because mainly we have to build the trust, take the trust of the industry. Because here in Sri Lanka, that our main aquaculture industry is shrimp farming. But at the moment, their collaboration with the university, it mainly happened through personal links. That means if the researchers or the academia are working with them or they have good relationship, then this is the link between the industry and the university is building up. But in Sri Lanka, we haven't seen that the industry is directly communicating with the university effectively. How we can improve this situation?
Well, yeah, that's a very good point, and I think that's in other countries that I've worked in and worked with, that's a common problem. I think, you know, one of the most important things is for the administrators at the university, not just the professors, but those that are above the professors that actually administer the university, to make helping you know, producers kind of a priority, because a lot of times at universities that I've seen in other countries, you have the research and the teaching is always a priority, and they're always important. But I think, you know, allowing the professors time to develop those relationships with producers is vital. And I think having an outreach center like you guys have, and Dr. Galkanda being the chief officer, I think that's a great thing. I think that's an ability, you know, to connect, you know, with those producers through your outreach programs. But a lot of times, you know, I've talked to other, you know, for instance, I was talking to a colleague of mine in the Caribbean islands, and he's wanting to help producers, but the university, his boss at the university, doesn't want him to. He wants him just to teach his classes and to just get money for the university, write grants and just teach classes. And so he's actually not allowed to go help somebody. So, you know, having the freedom to actually go and have that responsibility as part of your job really helps that. And that's something that has to be changed, I guess, at the top, at the upper level administration of the universities to allow, people like Dr. Galkanda the time and the resources to do this type of work.
Thank you. I totally agree with you because especially when it comes to the Sri Lankan university system, the administration always insisted to go for training programs and earning money by providing some sort of courses to outsiders, actually not looking into the extension and expanding these extension links with the industry and through that earning money. So that is true. So we have to reach to the industry. Otherwise, we may not be able to maintain the industry viable in the country. Yes, thank you very much.
No, that's a very good point.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Callum. And there's a question from Professor Chamila, our Dean of the faculty.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Luke. Roy, for your very interesting and very informative presentation. I have got many idea about from your presentation and how we can conduct this, how we can forward with getting the way forward of our outreach center activities through in different money earning or the finance, getting the financial assistance from the farmers or from the outsiders. So I have learned that how you have handled the things. And so I totally agree with you that what you have about your thoughts. And one of my question is now the curriculum is there in the one side and the outreach activities are there in the other side. So how you can manage by giving all the info, giving that the practices for the students, and how you can manage it? That I hope that you also having some classes, student classes there in the lab setting or the classroom setting, and in the same time you are going to take the students, undergrads, I especially mentioned about the undergrads. So how you can manage it with the undergrad teaching and with the extension, so in relate to the aquaculture and fisheries?
Yeah, so my particular appointment, I don't have a teaching appointment. I have just I just have an extension and a research appointment. So that gives me a lot more freedom to because I don't have to teach, I can spend time, on farms. But we do have several of the faculty members that are extension also have the responsibility to teach. I'm not one of them, and they sometimes, they always make it a priority to take students to farms, and they work with, they'll work with our facility and other facilities that are off campus to bring the students out here to kind of show them around. A lot of times undergraduate students will work on our laboratory in the summer. They'll come here, but it is kind of hard to balance the research, the teaching, and then the outreach. The good thing of about the land grant system in the United States, it is by design designed to provide farmers and producers with technical expertise from the university, and so the university is paying my salary to help them. And so having, it's kind of difficult. The extension system in the U.S. is very unique because of the system that we have, and because of having actual faculty members at universities that don't have as much teaching responsibility. So in order to kind of move forward, each country is kind of different, but it really kind of comes down to the previous gentleman's question, the administrators and allowing faculty to spend some time doing outreach and sometimes doing extension, and sometimes through their teaching programs, they can develop extension activities as well.
Thank you very much for your answer, and especially we have to address this thing for give the freedom to the staff members as well as connected with the curriculum more. Using the extension work, we can actually at the moment we did not put any extension activities to our curriculum, and recently we are going to revise the curriculum, and I hope that the Aquaculture and Fisheries Department put some activities to put more activities as an extension work. Thank you.
I think, and one more thing I'll add onto that is I think having an extension course, having a class, we don't teach it every semester, but we have an extension methods and aquaculture and fisheries class that we teach at our university to undergraduates and graduate students that are interested in extension. And so that's another way, if you can add it to your curriculum to get some training, for your students. And then also the faculty member that teaches that class can also, as part of the practicum, might incorporate some extension activities into that class. And that might be a way that you can kind of actually commit some of your time to do an extension through that, teaching that course.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Luke. And there's a question from BioGreen Technologies.
Hello, hi. I am Dhanuka, Managing Director of BioGreen Technologies. It's one of the leading biofertilizer manufacturing companies. So first I want to thank you, Dr. Galkanda, for inviting me to this session. So it's a very fruitful session, and thank you, Dr. Luke, for your great ideas and share your great experience. So then, first of all, I'm glad to say that we are doing some research with Dr. Galkanda with Wayamba University about our product. So then that also we think that the outcome of that research will be helpful for us. So then I want to ask Dr. Luke that how the USA industries get benefit from these researchers, because that industries always think about their economical benefits. What kind of benefits they get with these research outcomes? Can you explain about that?
Yeah, so I guess one example that I'll use is within the catfish industry, we've been developing some alternative production technologies that are more intensive. Like for instance, we're using higher levels of aeration, and then using higher stocking densities and things like that. And so we originally tested these technologies at the university. And then when it showed promise, we took those technologies to the farms and began testing them on the farms. And so we were able to in some cases, double the production and the yield of the catfish in the ponds, to the point where the farmer is making more money. And so the original participants in that study began to make more money. They told their other farmers and other friends that are farming, and so the other producers started testing this technology on their farm. And so a lot of times what we see is we see improved production, we see improved food conversion ratios, and we see improved water quality on actual farms using some of the techniques that are developed at the university. And all these translate to economic benefits for the commercial producer. And so when they see the benefits, for instance, Dr. Galkanda helped to develop a low-cost salt for producers, and which was much cheaper than the expensive salts. So farmers began using that technology and saving money. So it all translates to economic benefit.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Doctor. That it's a great ideas from you, that we are also expecting from local academia also, that if they make a two-way beneficial researchers, that the research should be beneficial for the academic as well as for the industry. So then two-way beneficial researchers, so then industries can be more interact with the academic researchers. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. That was a good question.
Thank you very much. And there's a question from Dr. Callum again.
Again, I'm here, and because already we have identified this extension education as a course module in the coming curriculum revision. And actually, if we can get your help to improve the prepared curriculum, that will be a great help, because as you have a great experience in the field. So once we finalize, could you please give the comments on our prepared curriculum?
Oh yeah, I'd be happy to provide any comments or and provide feedback if you guys end up developing a extension course. And I think that'd be a very good, very valuable resource for your students to train them, you know, in particular how to talk to producers and how to design, you know, design studies. A lot of extension and outreach is listening to the producers and using science. So they'll come to you with a problem, and you have to use science to solve that problem. And that's why I love the job. Is, you know, my research ideas, you know, they change all the time. I do, you know, aquaculture production is my main source, but for instance, working with birds, you know, 7 or 8 years ago, I had never worked with birds before in my life, but that was a problem that the producers had. And so it was, you know, it became my responsibility to find the solutions to that particular problem. And so I began to do bird research, not because I wanted to or because I was interested in it, but because it was a problem. And so that a lot of it's just identifying, you know, having that relationship with the producers is key, because then, you know, they communicate to you what the problems are, and then once the university knows what those problems are, then it becomes their problem and their responsibility to help their producers and to teach their students how to help the producers, and really developing that strong link with industry. Once you begin to help producers, you'll find that they'll probably, you know, they'll actually open their facilities. They'll even sometimes donate money to help the university solve a problem. That's happened to us before, where people have just come and said, "Hey, we'll give you this amount of money if, you know, if you develop these resources to help solve this problem." And so it's a mutual benefit for both the university, you know, and the industry.
Thank
So,
you very much, Dr. Luke. Anything,
so, and yes, so the next one is, so just I want to know that when we are conducting undergraduate programs, normally here in our system, we are restricted into a particular timetable and time allocation for conducting lectures and practicals. When we are dealing with these extension activities, so we need more time. How can we incorporate this issue? That means the issue means that the allocation of time into the teaching, and when finding time for field visits and working in the farms.
Yeah, that will have to depend on, you know, I'm not sure how your curriculum's designed. For us, you know, when we, you know, for our extension, you know, practicums or extension courses, we try to allocate time within the coursework for that particular course. A lot of times it's not just carried out at the university in the classroom. A lot of that course is actually going to farms and traveling. So we bring our students, you know, and sometimes in large vans or buses to the farms to meet with producers and just kind of get them that interaction. It does take a time commitment, you know, and it's not It's not easy. It's not just something, if you just develop the course and it's just lecture, and it's not going to be that valuable to the student. I mean, you'll learn the basics, but you know, a lot of this, you know, in order to develop a good extension course, you need to have interaction with the real stakeholders somehow designed into the course, I think.
Yeah, that's true. I accept that because otherwise we may not be able to give this exposure to them, because they are equipped with theory but not in practice.
Well, a lot of times what we'll do too is we will bring farmers to the university or stakeholders to the university to speak to the students. Sometimes to do guest lectures, to provide, you know, additional information to them. If it becomes difficult, you know, I realize, you know, in your country, you know, it's difficult to transport students, and you know, with the situation that you guys might have at least from what I saw in the news a couple of weeks ago, you guys were having issues with fuel supplies, and so it's probably difficult to travel, but you could always, you know, try to bring people in or do lectures, you know, guest lectures, like with people like me, you know, could come and do a guest lecture in the course and talk about different things that I do. And you could, with Zoom, you know, you could do some pretty cool things, I think. You know, as far as alternative ways to teach the students if you can't travel.
Yes, we had that. We tried out that Zoom meetings with farmers and some extension administrative officers during this COVID pandemic period, and also some of these activities are still continuing. But actually, however, students are willing to physically visit to the places and meet them. That's their purpose. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Callum. And there is one question from our student, Ms. Vishmi. And let's keep this question as the last, since the session is continuing for long. So yes, it's for you, Vishmi. You can ask.
Hello, sir. I'm Vishmi. I would like to know what are the research areas in aquaculture that industry seeking from researchers now?
Right now, at my location, there's a lot of interest in developing more optimized feeds. I think, you know, feeds is something that the farmers, you know, because of the cost of the ingredients going so high, we've kind of cheapened our feeds here in the United States, and in particular for the catfish, where we're using lower quality soybean meal, lower quality corn, because, you know, and we're using very little fish meal because of the cost, you know, of the feed. And so trying to figure out how to optimize feeds is still, you know, even though there's been a lot of research in feed technology, it's still becoming an issue because of the extreme cost of the ingredients. And then also, which is in parallel with that, is feed management. Feed management is a very big deal here in the U.S. right now. Trying to figure out the way to most efficiently feed your aquaculture animals in a way that you can still make a profit. And then I think also new production technologies are kind of interest here in the United States. You know, we have some interest in RAS, you know, recirculated aquaculture systems, but a lot of the RAS systems aren't economically viable because of the high cost of electricity and labor in the United States. And so there's still interest in developing new technology to kind of improve pond production, make pond production more efficient, because we have a lot of companies that are investing in RAS, but on average, you know, in 5 years, those companies are no longer in existence. So I think, you know, there's interest in new production technology that will increase the efficiency of pond production.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Vishmi, and thank you.
Good
Dr.
question.
Is there any question? I have saw there is one in the comment. If Vishni is available, you can go for that one for as the last one. I'm sorry.
Hello, sir. Sir, I would like to know which stage is more suitable in shrimp cycle to add probiotics, and is it required to add probiotics in both hatchery stage and farming stage to get better growth in shrimps?
Yes, so probiotics in the shrimp industry aren't, in the United States is not used very often. There's a lot of companies in the US that sell probiotics, and I believe, probiotics have some value, but in the United States, they haven't been using them that often. And I've done a number of studies with probiotics on farms, and I've been able to see a little, some benefits, in particular with reducing Vibrio, populations in the ponds and the water, but not necessarily infection rates. But probiotics is an area that hasn't been, because of the high cost of everything else in the United States. A lot of farmers aren't willing to pay the extra money for probiotics in their farms, because the additional cost is a little too high in their opinion. So we're still doing a lot of research on probiotics, but we don't have a whole lot of buy-in from producers in the United States compared to South America and Asia, where probiotics are used all the time. And I think, I think probiotics have a lot of potential, but they're not being, in the United States, in the shrimp industry, they're not being used hardly at all right now.
Okay, thank you, Vishni, and thank you, Dr. Luke. And yeah, I know it's a really insightful talk, and the Q&A session was very nice, because I'm pretty sure a lot of questions were there, and a lot of discussion and a lot of good feedback from Dr. Luke. I think it was a really good session for everyone. So thank you very much again, Dr. Luke, for accepting our invitation. It's really grateful, and it's a really honor to have you here, because he's one of my PhD supervisors as well. I have learned a lot from Dr. Luke, and I feel so good to share his voice again with the faculty as well, to share his insights, his experience and knowledge on this. In the same time, I would like to thank again for the faculty, the Dean of the Faculty, Senior Professor Chamila Jayasinghe, as well as the Management Committee of ORC Outreach Center, as well as the Working Committee of the Outreach Center. In the same time, I would like to thank the media unit, especially Mr. Prakash and Mr. Chaturanga helped me a lot to making these flyers, Zoom meeting, and all these managing technologies and everything. So it is a long day for Sri Lankans. I know it's now 7:30 in the night. So everybody is kind of tired, and it's a early morning for Dr. Luke, and I'm pretty sure you have a lot of work to do in your schedule, and it took a little bit longer than expected, extra 30 minutes. Please apologize for that, Dr. Luke, and thank you again.
No worries. I had about 2 hours blocked off, so don't worry.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Dr. Luke, again.
No, thank you for the opportunity. I enjoyed talking to you and answering questions, and I look forward to continuing working with you, Harsha, in the future.
Thank you, Dr. Luke, and everybody for joining with the session. With that, I will conclude the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.